Welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. It's been a little while since I've done a video. Life, busyness, kids, gigs, teaching, just been crazy. But I've been thinking about it in the back of my mind, and I just felt like today was a good day to tackle one of the things, at least the first attempt at tackling one of the biggest issues slash biggest obstacles I see with even implementing some of the ideas that I have. And so that is bureaucracy. So I'm going to start with just sharing a little story that actually happened to me. As they say, the names will have been changed to protect the innocent. That's kind of a joke. But anyway, so this year has actually been, again, a great year of teaching thus far. I feel like my personal growth that I've documented on this channel has really helped me in so many areas, including, but not limited to, connecting with students, creating better curriculum, thinking bigger picture, being organized, speaking up for myself, etc. I mean, just lots of different things. So anyway, and again, we got to throw COVID in there, all the stuff that's going on, and we're all just trying to do our best. And so, one of the things in my district, in my area, and that I'll say blessed. I was blessed to be able to do. Was I was given this wheel class at one point, and this was the first time I was given it was before COVID. And what I noticed as soon as I tried to teach the class is how deficient kids were in our district. It's just deficient in just skills across the board, just organizing their life, like being able to just hold themselves accountable, like effort. So I pivoted because it's like I was trying to do the music and they weren't really responsive, and I didn't feel like it was helping their future selves. And I just thought it was the way to do it. So I just changed it to kind of success skills, and then COVID hit and it kind of, whatever, just kind of blew up. Anyway, I was given the wheel again. And I'm going to spare some details, but the bottom line is I was like, well, I can do this better. So I'm going to do it as a success skills class. The only, again, this is why this one's about bureaucracy. The only bureaucratic issues that will become clear as I tell a bit more of the story is that it was still called Music Wheel. Now, I had actually gone through, and again, it's important detail just because in my mind, I clearly felt that I was okay moving forward with this idea of success skills. But again, more of this will make sense. Anyway, so I'm going and I'm starting this wheel class and teaching it. And I mean, again, there are some kids that it's probably not resonating with completely, but I feel like the majority of kids have been super responsive to this concept. And I think that I can deliver it really well. All right. So long story short, we're wrapping up about 6 weeks and I get an email from a parent. I was a little confused, and at first I was feeling defensive, and then I realized it's like, no, I get it. But the email was the email ended up being what you might call, it felt like a gotcha email, right? But it was filled with kind of small passive aggressive things that if I chose to read it into that way, I could get really frustrated. And whether that was intent or not doesn't matter. But anyway, I had to meet with the principal a little bit and kind of talk through it, and it felt very supported. Everything was good. But the bottom line is, because I pivoted and made a decision, but yet the class was still called Music Wheel, I'm going to have to modify a little bit. But here's the deal. So this particular incident is what's kind of sparking this first attempt at discussing bureaucracy, because I have had probably hundreds at this point of conversations with different teachers, different people I respect. And I've just kind of had discussions where I've talked about my philosophy, about what I think we could do to fix the education system. And I have never once, and I mean this, I've never once had someone say, that doesn't make any sense. They're like, oh my God, you're right. Like, it's constantly been reinforcing me. And so it's allowed me to feel more empowered and more, I think empowered is the right word, to keep kind of putting these ideas out there and trying things. And they seem to be working. So, but again, this story I shared just a second ago is my first run-in with the system, the bureaucracy. So again, I don't know where I'm going to go with this, but I will say this. I've always known in the back of my mind that the biggest obstacle with the system fixing it is just the bureaucracy of it. Um, and one thing about bureaucracies in general is they stifle creativity. And I have to even fully admit, up front that as a music teacher, a band director more specifically, I probably do have more autonomy than most teachers would have, which is probably the luxury, the reason that I've always felt like I could navigate the system fine. And one of those things is I've always, I listen for the rules, I try to follow, but I'm always looking for what I'm just going to call it bluntly, a better way to do it. Because I think there are better ways to do it. I don't think my way is the only best way, but I do think some of the things that I'm talking about, and even in the music realm, the ideas that I have and the systems I've developed, I think they're good. They're great. Now, part of the reason they're great is because they're my system. So I know how to use them better than anybody else. But I also think I've created a system that's user friendly and that any band director, if they just spend a little time and looked at it and understood, it's like, oh, this is very sequential. It's very, it's well thought out. All right. So back to the bureaucracy. So for me, the reason I feel like I've been able to navigate, I think I'm on my 13th year of teaching. I did get a little burned out at my old job, but that's just because it was a giant high school and too much stuff going on. But I've always thrived on kind of creating my own path. And probably since I taught band, I was able to always do that. So again, I'm coming back and saying I've run into my first hiccup, I guess, with the bureaucracy. Now, what do we do with it? Well, that's a very difficult question, and I don't have an answer yet. So right now, this is more just acknowledging the fact that if somebody comes across my ideas and starts thinking, I like these ideas, there's something to this, we are going to be fighting a bureaucracy. Now I'm just spitballing. I mean, again, like I said, I haven't thought this far out, but I do think that one of the giant issues that we face is the fear of litigation. And there are, of course, a handful of reasons that if something happened to a student, absolutely, physical assault, sexual assault by a teacher, things like that. I mean, that stuff, that there's no place for that. But I do think that part of what created the monstrosity that is the bureaucratic system of education is this fear of being sued. And I'm all for, I do think parents should have lots of power. I think parents should have more say in their kids' education. I would hope they would take more ownership. But the reality is, especially in today's culture, we as teachers are constantly tasked with being the parents. And I know as a father myself, I want my kids to experience a little bit of hardship, to grow through some of these things. And I feel like when we put all these rules in place, we actually make it harder to teach students, not easier. And I know the intention is to make it easier, but it just appears that we're not doing it. Now, I'm sure if I sat for a while and reflected and journaled and did some things and maybe thought for longer periods, I might even come up with some more specific practical ideas for fixing the bureaucracy. But the first thing that always comes to mind is just this litigiousness, like, my kid didn't get this, we're going to sue you. Like, oh, we got to fix it. Instead of saying, no, parents, you don't have that right. Okay. You just don't. But I never want to pretend like we should take away the parents' right. And this is what creates such a delicate balance in our system. But I would hope and think that any sane and rational teacher who's been doing this for a while is seeing what I'm seeing. And they're seeing that the bureaucracy that we are having to deal with is stifling. And really, it doesn't help students learn. I don't believe it does. And this goes back to, too, some of the bureaucracy is the grades themselves. Like, I don't think our grading system, at least in our area, works. I've made a video before about the 80-20 idea that I think that we would do much better for our students if we graded 80% of the homework / personal management / effort, right? Effort is the most valuable thing. And then that last 20%, the thing that would separate like an A, B, or maybe even a C is the true, like the test, the assessments. And think about it just logically, okay? our lowest performing students, it's usually an effort problem, right? They don't feel like they understand the material, the content, whatever. And they just they don't try, right? Or people don't do homework. And then they fail at the test and they know the test is a big part of the grade and they just say, well, what's the point? Whereas if you default to 80% or even 70%, let's just say 70% of their grade is really based on effort and the homework and that stuff. And so if the kids are doing the homework, right, even if it's wrong, right, but they're doing it in good faith, then I would say that means every student can start as a C student, right? And then as they understand it more, they can raise. And so every student has more potential to reach their potential, to reach their maximum growth, etc. Anyway, but that's just one example of just a tiny bureaucratic system we have that really, I think, is hurting our students. And so anyway, the point is, and this is something that I've hesitated to make a video on simply because it's such a giant thing. And when you start talking about the bureaucracy, some people feel like they need the bureaucracy because then they know exactly what they're supposed to do, right? That's the system's answer to creating order. But the byproduct seems to be more chaos, more misunderstanding, or I should say, less parent involvement, right? Because they're like, well, that they'll just take care of it or whatever. I don't know. This is again one of those things where hopefully I'll revisit it. Hopefully I'll become more clear in my thought process here. But due to this little incident that happened, and again, it's really probably the first time I felt that the bureaucracy was rearing its ugly head and coming after me. And and I share this too with my administrator, and I'll share it here. I don't mind it. I'm not ashamed of it or anything. But 2-3 years ago, if that had happened, if exactly the same thing had happened, I would have been devastated. I would have had knots in my stomach. I would have wanted to go curl in the corner and just die. I would have hated it. And I wouldn't have. I don't know. I mean, I would have recovered, but I would always now be looking over my shoulder. I'm doing something wrong. And so I credit my several years of personal growth to just realize it's like, I can't please everyone. And I'm happy to have a conversation. That's why I'm making all these videos. I'm trying to get better and better at articulating exactly what I think we could do. Not just, hey, we need to do this. It's like, here's the specifics. Here's how it'll work. Here's the logical steps to fill it in, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to make this very tangible. So anyway, I mean, again, I hope I said my piece. But again, it was looking back, it's just kind of a great learning opportunity, which again is something I would never have said 4 years ago. So with that said, I think I'll end there. As always, consistent effort over time equals success. One caveat, I'm hopefully going to start saying consistent quality effort. I think it's implied. I think anybody could go, oh yeah, effort, good effort, right? But there are kids that think effort, they'll do poor effort, and they think that's effort. So again, consistent quality effort over time equals success. Thank you very much.